Hey YouTube, it's Fussy again, and I just wanted to come back with a quick showcase of I guess it wouldn't be a showcase, but just sharing with you guys the progress on the builds from last night. I started with Bloodlance Necromancer. I had created a starter guide 1 through 50 and an endgame guide on Mobalytics last week, and turns out obviously some things have changed, but I have made those updates to the starter guide to mimic exactly what I did to get this character to 50. Now, as far as the heart combination goes, something that's important to note is the heart that allows us to walk near a corpse and automatically activate it every second. This is the biggest heart that I have in the build for 1 through 50, and I think it's one of the biggest hearts literally every Necromancer has in their build at this moment, because of what it does with your corpse skills. It is activating them every single second, and that includes any single corpse skill you have, including your corpse tendrils. Corpse tendrils is really powerful, being that it slows our enemies. It also groups all our enemies from the ones who would be spread around the screen. It groups them all, and it also makes them vulnerable, making them take more damage. So it is really, really powerful when that effect is going off once every single second. And in addition to that, we still get full control over these skills as well. So while it's casting corpse tendrils every second, I can also be casting corpse tendrils if I feel that I need that additional safety. So it's a really, really nice devious heart, and something I would recommend getting into your build ASAP if you don't. Another thing that happened was during our run, I had a Blood Artisan's Cuirass drop. This was just a lucky drop, obviously not something that I had planned for, and not something that I had worked into the starter guide, and not something that I will work into the starter guide, because frankly, it's not needed, but it is pretty nice, I'll be honest. We create quite a few blood orbs, and so the aspect, it reads, when you pick up between 5 and 10, we roll to 7, blood orbs, a free bone spirit is spawned, dealing bonus damage based on your current life percent. Now, the bone spirit does inherit the enhancements from our bone spirit. And so what I did was take a couple points into the bone spirit, sorry, just 1 point into bone spirit. We get a couple points from the Blood Artisan's Cuirass, and I also get a couple more points from my boots. And from there, we use the Dreadful Bone Spirit enhancement, so that every time it goes off, it gives us 30 essence back over the next 4 seconds, and it's just really nice at keeping us topped off on our essence. So really, really recommend, if you do have a Blood Artisan's Cuirass, to slot it in. It feels really good. It feels really good on the mana sustain, but still not sure it's something that I will continue into the end game, as I'm pretty sure for the later pushing, I'd rather have a nice beefy rare chest with an aspect on it. If you caught my last video, I talked about a little tech that I like to use on this build with Blight. And so in the chest slot, I'll grab myself a nice beefy chest, and for the aspect, I like to use the Void aspect, and that is the aspect that allows our Blight to pull enemies into the center of it when it explodes, and it's really, really nice since we scale so much attack speed in the build. You don't even really recognize when you're firing off your Blights. You can just kind of have it on one of your keys here, QWER. I never really recognize when I'm firing them off. I'm just kind of mindlessly pressing the key for my Blight. Enemies are literally just being sucked around the screen like a vacuum wherever I want them to go, and then it's very safe, and I'm able to blow everything up really easily and still take full advantage of all the passives from Reaper's Pursuit, Crippling Darkness, etc. So it's just a really, really nice effect, and allows us to stay tanky in the end game while also remaining safe, so we can push further. So yeah, something that I will be doing a little later, but again, Blood Artisan's Cuirass, absolutely not needed or necessary, but it is a nice little thing to have in the early and mid game, if you ask me. For the gloves, I just found some random gloves on the ground. The aspect is not the aspect I'll be using here, And as far as the gloves go, I just put them on because they have some main stat and some willpower, which is scaling our damage. And then we also get some attack speed, which is a premium stat for the build. As for the pants, I have not put an aspect on them, but I do plan on putting might on the pants for now. The pants just look for some life and some damage reduction. I haven't found anything better than these, but hopefully I'll get lucky soon enough. The greaves are the shared misery aspect. Again, not an aspect that I will likely be using in the end game, but it's just the only one I had on my codex at the time when I found the boots, and so I put it on there. But it likely won't be using that in the end game unless I can really find a good use for it. Next, we have Bloodseeker's Touch. Bloodseeker's Touch is going to allow our Blood Lance to deal more damage to its primary target per lanced enemy. And this is really nice in conjunction with Gore Quills, which I'll go over in just a second here, as well as the Pierce that we get from the just general enhancement of Blood Lance. It works really, really nice with that. Gets us a lot of damage on that single target. The Gore Quills, casting Blood Lance will consume blood orbs to also conjure lances from them. Each additional Blood Lance deals 20% of normal damage and prioritizes targeting unlanced enemies. This is really nice for even the early game while we're only creating, a few orbs as we are right now. But I can only imagine how good this is going to get once we get a little bit of blood orb generation scaling into the build, as well as all the attack speed layers we have that get added to our hemorrhage. I can only imagine how many of these blood lances are going to be firing around the screen with the amount of blood orbs we create. So it's going to be really, really cool, I think, in the late game. But even during the early and mid game, it has felt really, really nice just for that 1 through 50 stage. The next one I have here is a Fast Blood ring, and the Fast Blood aspect, I'm not sure 100% I'm going to use it in the end game, but I probably will find it in here because it's pretty nice. And ultimately, I plan to use the Bone Shield aspect, which gives our Bone Storm, it gives us barrier when our Bone Storm's hitting enemies. And since I'll be using that aspect and would love to have full uptime on it as much as possible, I think that this will just become stronger and stronger, obviously, as we create more and more blood orbs. So it's just going to be something I think has to be put into the build. And so right now it's just on a junk ring that I found it on, but we'll see how I can work that in later on. The other ring here is just a random ring with some overpower and life, and then the Hungry Blood aspect. Each cast of Blood Lance will launch an additional Blood Lance at a nearby enemy when it first hits an enemy that is already lanced, dealing 60% of its normal damage. This is absolutely mandatory to get into the build for a couple of reasons. One, from what I understand, you have to have it to make Gore Quills work at the time being. So if you do not have this, then Gore Quills does not actually deal damage with its lances, from what I've heard, and that is terrible. So definitely get Hungry Blood in your build. And then it is also just really good for additional clear, because of course you have your lances actually now firing at additional enemies. So it's just really, really nice to have in the build. Definitely get that in as soon as possible. Now, as for the skill tree, we essentially just do a pretty standard tree here. It's just 1 point into Hemorrhage and 1 point into Blood Lance. We then go into Supernatural as well as the Acolyte's Hemorrhage. This is just for the guaranteed overpower on the Blood Lance, and then the Acolyte's Hemorrhage is for additional attack speed on the Hemorrhage, and this gives us obviously more Blood Orb generation, and then it also gives us more Essence generation as we're attacking faster. For the Blood Mist, I'm using 1 point into Blood Mist. Arguably, you could put more points into Blood Mist and maybe take some points away from some of your passive skills. But I personally find that my Blood Mist uptime has been fine and not something that has worried me too much at the current state of the current point in the game that I'm at. So I just keep it at 1 point. And then for the enhancement, I use Dreadful Blood Mist, which is Blood Mist fortifies you for 0.5% of life each time it hits an enemy. It's really, really nice enhancement to have. As for the Corpse Explosion, this is simply so we make use of the Vicious Heart that we have here. Walking near a corpse automatically activates an equipped corpse skill every second. As I mentioned, it's just a really nice heart to have in the build, and in my opinion mandatory, because it just gives such crazy amounts of control of the monsters with your corpse tendrils. It cannot be understated, and something you absolutely must have in the build. But another thing it's going to do is give our Corpse Explosion, which we have used the Blighted Corpse Explosion enhancement on. It's going to give our Corpse Explosions time to go off every second as well. And when the Corpse Explosions go off, it's dealing darkness. It's a darkness skill dealing shadow damage. So we now get 15% movement speed from it. We also have a chance that it is stunning enemies. It's a big AoE too on each Corpse Explosion, so that stun is actually pretty effective. And then in addition to that, the Corpse Explosions are giving us essence back, and then it's also giving us some additional damage. So really, really nice little interaction that we got going on there. And it's all made possible with that Devious Heart, because without it, we have to self-cast all the corpse skills. And, you know, Corpse Tendrils is fine, but Corpse Explosion, you don't want to have too many things you're casting, in my opinion. Other than that, there's nothing really too out there going on with the build. The full breakdown of the build is actually on Mobalytics. So I have the 1 through 50 guide available there for you guys if you want to go and follow along there. I'll also be streaming the build today. We're going to be getting started here in about the next half an hour, and going likely till about 6 or 7 o'clock EST today. Come check us out, twitch.tv/FussyBirdTV, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys there. If you have any questions, obviously shoot them out in chat, or just go and check out the Mobalytics. We also have the Discord available for anybody who's looking for group or looking for some more advice with theory crafters and would like just to really get into Sanctuary and start having a lot of fun making a lot of builds. That's kind of what the Discord is for. It's just a lot of theory crafters and people who like to make builds and have fun. Anyways, thanks again for the watch, guys. Hope you all enjoyed the video and the builds. If you did, give it a like, give it a share, and yeah, I'll come back at you with an update as soon as possible as we scale into the endgame version. Really excited to share it with you guys. Thanks again. Talk to you soon. Peace out.